This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I think we're ready to start. So first I want to welcome everyone for our first inaugural DC VUG meeting. This will be a virtual meeting. Elle and I will be presenting a few items. Let me put this up. My idea is to have this a bit like an open forum conversation. If you have questions, just go ahead. We'll have some questions how we want to do future meetings. But with that said, I'm going to go forward and introduce our leaders, Elle and me, Nico. So Elle, why don't you go first and talk a little bit about yourself?
Sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us today for our first VUG meeting. As Nico mentioned, my name is Al Rashid. I've been a Veeam Vanguard since 2019. I use the product extensively, whether it be at home or at work. And I'm looking forward to engaging with the community, making connections, and providing the information answers that hopefully you're looking for. And sooner or later, we'll hopefully get to connect in person.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, so my name is Nico Stein. I'm a Vanguard since 2021. I'm a V expert as well for 6 years now. I'm in part of some other programs. In my day-to-day job, I run IT department at a mid-sized credit union out of Maryland and Virginia in DC. So this is our first inaugural meeting. To Al's point, I hope we can meet in person following this. And I'm happy to work with the community, give something back. I run Veeam at work. I run Veeam extensively in my home lab. And yeah, so clearly a Veeam fan, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
That's for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So the agenda for today is the DC VUG introduction. We want to talk about what's the Veeam community, how you can get involved, the recap of VeeamON announcements. I don't know, some of you have been there. Some might have followed that virtual. There were some good announcements that came out, and then we want to talk on future events.
Yep, and throughout this conversation, I'll be dropping links in the chat, so please be on the lookout for them. And feel free to bookmark them because I'm sure they'll come in handy down the road.
Yep. Thanks. So what is the Veeam community is the first item. So the Veeam community is an online hub where you exchange ideas, there questions, there's announcements. It's a great place to start if you're in the beginning of your journey with Veeam. It's great to learn from others who are further along. Tips and tricks are great. I'll put in the link in the chat. It's obviously free to sign up. I highly suggest signing up. You get a lot out of it. There's announcements from Veeam product management that you might not find anywhere else. Yeah, Al, do you have anything else to add about the great Veeam community?
You know, what I was going to add to that, Nico, is there's a ton of resources. Not only can you consume them, but you can also make recommendations, provide feedback. So if you're a Veeam customer, you come across a bug, you want to share this experience with the broader community, with also the Veeam community internally, there are multiple avenues and opportunities to do such through the website that I linked in the chat. And most times than not, the feedback is very consistent. In some cases, you'll get a response from a customer, a community member, or even someone on the Veeam side with recommendations on how to go about resolving the matter that you brought to their attention. They'll acknowledge it. They'll post a KB as a follow-up and so on and so forth. But there's so many areas that you can get involved, but as I said to start, I like to consume some of the information that's provided. I always look forward to the Veeam Community Recap, and that's typically hosted by Annalena and Rick Vanover. I know, Sophia, you've been a guest on the show as well, and what's really cool about it is it engages community members to be a part of that conversation, whether it would be community posts or blog posts, or speaking engagements online or in person. And furthermore, if you've got a blog and you've got blog posts related to anything Veeam, you can be nominated for Blog of the Month. But yeah, there's a host of information. I can go on and on.
Yeah, and to add on this one, if you're active on the forums and blog posts, you become possibly a Veeam 100 member. It's a similar program to Veeam Vanguards, or Veeam 100 is the umbrella for all the Veeam programs. But if you become a member, if you're elected to, one of the really highlights is the Veeam 100 Summit, where Veeam will take you to either Prague or Berlin, Germany, and you have direct access to product management. There are awesome sessions. There's a good amount of fun stuff too, but you usually never get such a direct contact and direct feedback loop from product management from a multi-billion-dollar company. So this is, keep this in mind, be active on the forums. If you write blog posts, video posts, just publish it there, and with a bit of luck, you might be going to Berlin or Prague next year.
Oh yeah, and on top of that, you also have an opportunity to present, if selected, at VeeamON or at a Veeam event nearby. And again, that's a great opportunity to network with the community, get some exposure, share your knowledge, also receive knowledge, and just be a part of the broader community as a whole.
Exactly. So one of the big items we want to talk about today is the recap of VeeamON announcements. So there was a lot of announcements out there. So this is just a small overview of what me and Al think are the highlights. You can read it all up online. One of the biggest highlights, and just a little anecdote, I was lucky to be at VeeamON. Veeam Backup Replication version 13 is running on Linux. The way Anton Gostev, the senior product manager and developer, so to speak, the brain, one of the biggest brains there, he had a little demo, and first we didn't catch on, or I didn't catch on, I should say. So he was just, I'm gonna RDP into my Veeam server. It's like, okay, fine, you do that. And said, oh, it's not working. And he said, let me just SSH into my Veeam server. And so he SSH'd into it. The server was a Linux box, and he just showed top the processes, and there was Veeam backup replication as a process on a Linux machine. So that was pretty cool. That is a big change. I want to point out Veeam is not moving away from Windows servers. It's an addition to it. So you still will have the choice to run backup replication on Linux or on Windows servers, but it adds a lot of flexibility and opportunities for companies like where I work. We're mostly Windows, but we do have probably 30% of Linux servers around. So this is a great feature that's coming. If it's in version 13, and the joke with Veeam is it's ready when it's ready, but it was mentioned officially that it would be coming out this year. Now, I don't know when this year, and I would not hold Veeam fully accountable to it, but it was mentioned that it's coming in 2024. So personally, I'm really excited about this. So yeah, great for Veeam. That was a big surprise. It was a great surprise there, great integration. The other one I'm going to mention that was already kind of mentioned before is Veeam added another hypervisor, Proxmox. I could imagine a lot of people in the space might be looking for alternatives to VMware by Broadcom for, I don't know, maybe licensing costs, hypothetically, I don't know. So Proxmox is officially, will be officially supported. We did a demo where we were moving VMs from VMware to Proxmox. This is especially if you're a small SMB or service provider, that usually appeals to you. Again, I work in SMB personally, so this is something we're definitely looking forward to it, and we're already standing up Proxmox service clusters. I don't know, Al, do you want to touch on some others as well?
Well, I would jump into for example, the next item on the list, the Veeam Microsoft Copilot integration. You know, to Nico's point a moment ago, AI is everywhere. There are multiple avenues to access it and such and take advantage of it. And this is one integration that's just going to make it a little bit more seamlessly to manage your environment, you know, open up discussions and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I have to touch on it. I did not have the opportunity to attend VeeamON in person this year. So most of my interaction was online, and I look forward to learning more about these future announcements, future product feature sets, and updates and upgrades down the road. And along those lines, and I've dropped multiple links in the chat. You know, as Nico pointed out, announcements were made. For example, you know, Veeam Backup and Replication version 13 on Linux. It's not currently available. It will soon be available, but your best method of staying in touch or staying on top of any Veeam-related announcements are the links that I've shared in the chat. That would be if you're on X/Twitter, there's the Veeam community handle. I've also included the LinkedIn URL for Veeam's site. And lastly, the Veeam 100 directory. If you are interested in becoming an active member of the Veeam community, that's, again, you can do so in terms of forums and such. But if you believe that you can contribute and in more detail, and it does require a lot of time and effort, I'm going to be completely honest, you can apply to become either a Vanguard and or a Legend. MVPs, I should mention, that is strictly for Veeam employees. So for the general public, you have opportunities, other avenues to become a member, whether it through be the Vanguard program or the Veeam Legends program.
Yep. Thanks, Al. So yeah, one of the items that was added to Veeam Backup is Entra ID. Let's see if Microsoft changed the name again in the next 3 months. We'll see. So that's a new feature. What I want to point out, because there was some discussion even at Veeam on what it falls under. So Veeam Entra will be included in Veeam Backup and Replication. It will not be part of backup for Microsoft 365. Personally, I think it does make sense, because while 365 still uses Entra a lot, it's not exclusively. So this is a great feature. You can restore different attributes of your Entra ID. In this case, the demo was, if I recall correctly, Michael Cade. He walked off on Entra and changed his title in AD, and then they restored it back. So this is also coming soonish. I don't have a date on this as well. I believe it's part of version 13. But this is also, again, I'm always talking from me running an IT shop at work. This is something that we really look forward to. It's a great addition, and since we already have Veeam deployed, it's really not a heavy lift to implement this. The last point we have here is something that's a bit dear to my heart. I've been experimenting with this a lot in my home lab, is the Veeam Hardened Repository ISO. That was first kind of came about last year. The idea is pretty much you have a hardened repository built by scripts and on Linux based for on-prem. It's a great system. It really helps you against ransomware protection. But it was a bit like, I'm not going to say a home lab project, but it was from product engineers that they kind of saw a need. It kind of last year made its first appearance, so to speak, and now it is not in kindergarten more. It's a full-grown adult. It is fully supported by Veeam. It will live under the research and development forums. They changed the Linux system to Rocky Linux for security updates. It has a graphic-driven interface now for setting it up, so it makes it a lot easier. You can either download the ISO completely, or you can download the script that hardens the Linux distribution separately. The easiest way is really to download the ISO, deploy in your home lab first, play around with it, but it will be ready for prime time for productions, fully supported by Veeam. So that's something, go check it out. It's again, we're going back to the community side, but there's information about the ISO as well. You can download it and deploy it. I've done it a couple times now. Going a different route at work right now with Object First, but it's definitely something that's great for, again, smaller, medium-sized business, but even bigger business. If you need a pretty affordable hardened repo with immutability, it's right there. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. Veeam already did the heavy lift for you. Okay. So the last slide we have here, and again, if you have questions, please interrupt or just speak up. What's next for the VUG? Again, this is the first VUG we're doing. We want to plan an in-person one, but we also want to see, and if you're in the chat, where you all would like to meet. We have some people obviously that are from further away. Al and I'm in the Maryland region. Al is in Virginia region. We've done before Washington DC to meet, but we're open to where the community would like to meet, so it's accessible. We know in the DMV area here, traffic is always a concern. parking is a concern, but there are some locations we can definitely do. And some ideas we have been throwing around, and again, we're completely happy to facilitate, is maybe a brewery where we have a little room, people come together, maybe have a beer or water, and we just talk about shop what's going on in your world, what your challenges are. The other thing is, again, engage in the Veeam community. I think we've covered that pretty much, Al, when you two sign up. One thing I'm gonna point out that's coming up, and Al, if you want to put up the link for the hackathon.
Yep, I'm getting it right now. Yep.
Awesome, thank you. So this is the second annual Veeam Community Hackathon, where there will be projects. You don't need to be a coder. I'm gonna say that first and foremost because I'm not a coder, and if a hackathon is like, well, I cannot contribute at all to this. This is not the case. There will be some coders, but there's people who organize project management, presenting, testing. So there's something for everyone in there. I think it's this time it's a complete 72-hour hackathon. You don't need to be a Veeam customer. You don't need to be a Vanguard or Veeam 100 member. It is open for the public. And it's a great way to engage with others. You will learn a ton of stuff. I think you also get a t-shirt if you sign up. So if you have t-shirts, yeah, sign up.
Who couldn't use swag?
Yeah, right. So yeah, if you get active with Veeam, Veeam is like one of the kings of swag giveaways. I'm just saying that. Yeah, so those are the next steps. We're going to try to put together an in-person meeting. Agreed on swag. Yeah, there you go. In-person meeting. Put something together. We're going to have some speakers. We already have some ideas, but we really like any feedback. You can give feedback here. Al put in my blog site, his blog site on Twitter. You can always reach us on LinkedIn as well. And that is pretty much what we have planned next. Back to you, Al.
Yep, absolutely. And not just isolated to, Nico's blog or mine. Again, I shared with the audience here in the chat the Veeam 100 directory. If you skim through, whether you go through the Vanguard list or the Legend list or the MVP list, most times than not, there's going to be a URL or hyperlink to that person's respective blog. So take full advantage of all these resources. I've also included in the chat, for whatever reason, it didn't format properly in terms of a hyperlink, Chris Childerhose's most recent book on Veeam Backup and Replication version 12. I know he's planning a fourth one, I hear. There's a rumor out there. Yeah, so be on the lookout. Again, be on the lookout for announcements and such. Another fantastic resource to keep in mind. And yeah, that's all I got. I mean, I personally, it's nice to connect with everyone virtually, but I think Nico also touched on this. I get more out of connecting with folks in person. And once we establish a date and time down the road, but most importantly, a location that is beneficial to everyone because the greater DMV is relatively large. If we can find something that facilitates that, just we're eager to do such and just keep following the community pages, and we'll make announcements as they become available.
Yep. And if anyone has any questions, feedback right now, please share it with the group, and we're happy to answer.
And as far as the swag, if I wasn't having a snafu with my camera at the moment, I would be representing my Veeam Vanguard polo. But I should mention the quality of swag is top notch. I know, Terrence, you jumped in there and said something about it. The quality is top notch. That's another example. Not only do we receive the swag, but Veeam follows up with us and asks us for feedback. Like, are we happy with the quality and the materials and so on and so forth? And they're always looking for recommendations and feedback. So it's always an open dialogue, and I think that's why this community stands out. And I know Nico touched on it. That's why we appreciate it. And we, to our defense, we contribute as often as we can. And it's just like the old saying, give a little, take a little. But yeah, if you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat, or you're welcome to just jump in here on the call.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So we just had the Veeam user group late last month in the Minneapolis Twin Cities, and we're looking on planning the next one. Do you guys have any? Like, I was kind of seeing if I could pull some of my customers or certain things. Do you have any areas of like next ideas of Veeam user group? I'm thinking like September, October timeframe for the next one, but do you guys have any topics or things that you find like a recurring theme across any of this?
So, well, Al, can take that as well. It is still the overshadowing from Broadcom that Al and I were also VMUG leaders at one point. Well, I'm still a VMUG leader. That also spills into other user groups that I've encountered because it's on everyone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of still a reoccurring topic for the better or the worse. I think time-wise we haven't really decided yet, but obviously not in the heat of the summer here in Maryland because I'm about to die and cook at 100 degrees again today, and I'm not good with heat. But yeah, after the summer break, I think that's where we probably will do this.
Yeah, the two big things that we spent a lot of time talking on was that and just Veeam being. I mean, to me, Veeam just showed that they're the leader of for the next big virtualization platform, so we can adopt, supporting backing it up. So I mean, that was a big one, and then the other one was the YARA rules of being able to use those. And we kind of came with like a good use case, but it's not like we can't use it as like a compliance thing. But you could write a YARA rule and scan your file server and find out do you have any PII or credit card or stuff like that, just to see, for your own audits. So being able to use YARA in a positive fashion rather than always negative. But
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think there's definitely something for, but Veeam has a great start with YARA rules and malware detection built in now, but I think there's also still a good amount of room for improvement to have this a bit more detailed. But yeah, that's something that comes up a lot. What also is the cooperation with Object First. So there's a lot of overlap. I don't know if you're familiar with Object First, is a spin-off, so to speak, of Veeam founders Ratmir, for really immutable storage in your data center instead of the cloud. So that's a hot topic right now. In the SMB, again, I can only speak for the SMB because that's where I live in daily. We have an Object First box here because I'm an ACE member, so I got one to test, and it's something that is really helping with a lot of headache. I mean, I can always back it up to the cloud, but then it comes with costs and whatnot. And this is really like you pay once and then you can restore as many times because you don't have egress ingress costs. So I've had some conversations with that, and it's pushed by Veeam pretty hard in cooperation with Object First. It's not for everyone. I think if you're like a huge provider, like healthcare provider, multi-billion dollars, that is probably not what you want to do. But for a lot of SMBs, that is definitely helping with a pain point.
Yeah, I met with Harry. Harry, I met at first. I did go to VeeamON first year. Freaking phenomenal! I had a great time. Oh man, it was so fun. But yeah, so I met Harry and some of the team. I actually realized I got to follow up with him. So I haven't had my first meeting with him since VeeamON. But yeah, object storage has become kind of the big, like that's an avenue where we haven't had a whole lot. So kind of having that software defined storage and stuff. I think I met with one vendor currently, but cool.
And I almost forgot something, and Ella, I think you forgot it too. So thanks, Sophia, for reminding us. We also have a $50 gift card giveaway. So for everyone who's on, we have the list. So we will raffle that off and notify you afterwards, unless you want to do it anyway differently. Al?
That'll work. Yeah, no, that'll work. Afterwards is fine. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So I should have started with this. There's a $50 giveaway. Sorry. Next time.
Yeah, we're newbies. We'll get the hang of this. Time, everything takes time, as everyone knows. Terrence, what I would recommend, in terms of getting speakers, if that's what you're asking, reach out to the community.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's really topical, but
right.
But not a bad idea. It might not be a bad idea to have somebody from the Veeam community or Veeam product management or something. I mean, Emily was there last time, which she's freaking phenomenal. So, but yeah, having some other people there in place would be kind of neat in the next one.
So I think I can say, Al, that we maybe have someone for next one who did a lot of training and used to write the tests a lot.
That is correct.
A really tall guy.
Yes. Yes.
Rasmus. So yeah, we might have him on the next in-person one.
Yeah, for sure. He actually, I don't know if it's going to be in person because he's abroad.
Well, maybe. Let's just say the next meeting.
Yes, next meeting. But yeah, he's reached out to Nico and I prior to today's call and has offered to do a discussion. I believe it's on the Veeam Ready program. And once we coordinate all the date, the time, the agenda, and so on and so forth, just be on the lookout again on the community page for the information. And the hope is maybe September timeframe, because right now, like Nika said as well, a lot of folks are on vacation or away from home, and we just want to draw as many people into a call as much as possible, and that's our hope.
Yep.
And Jim, I have to respond to your chat message. You're referring to AI and not what Al can do. Is that correct? If you're still here.
Unless Al has some really, really good things to say.
I wish. I'm still trying to generate lottery numbers, my friend. It just keeps failing on me.
Maybe Al has some AI.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Maybe Al is an AI. Either way,
Yeah,
I'd like
that's
to hear
true.
more. I'd like to hear more about the AI.
Cool. No, we'll definitely add that to the list and include it on future conversations.
While we're at it, we can also discuss suggested type fonts.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said while we're at it, we can also discuss suggested type fonts so that it's easier to tell the difference between Al and AI.
Ah, yes. I get that a lot,
Indeed.
trust me. Yeah. Maybe just start putting AR for initials. Maybe that'll be a little bit easier. It's all good. I get it. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or anything, feedback you'd like to share with us? And I'm sure Nico would say the same. We hope you found this call useful. We appreciate everyone joining. And again, we look forward to future engagements, hopefully in person as well. And, you can always touch base with us, whether it's on the blog, the community page. There are multiple avenues to do such.
Yep. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jim. Yep, to Al's point, thank you so much for coming, for attending our little talk here, and stay tuned for news what we're going to do next.
Yep, and one last thing, I would be remiss, and I'm sure Nico would feel the same way. Thank you, Sophia, for coordinating this call and allowing us to
Absolutely.
participate as leaders.
Absolutely.
Okay, our friends. Well, look forward to next time. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.